In 1921, the borders of Central Europe were still settling after World War I. Hungary had just lost two-thirds of its territory under the Treaty of Trianon, and one region, Western Hungary, today known as Burgenland, was given to Austria. But when Austria tried to take over the area, local Hungarian militias and former soldiers refused to accept the border. The result was a short but significant conflict known as the West Hungarian Uprising. Western Hungary included towns like Sopron and Mattersburg. The Allies awarded the region to Austria, arguing that the new Austrian state needed this territory to remain economically viable. The ethnic picture was mixed. Some rural districts were predominantly Hungarian-speaking. Many towns had German-speaking majorities, and Croatian communities lived in the southern villages. Because of this diversity, transferring the region was controversial from the beginning. The handover was scheduled for 28 August 1921. Hungary's government, led by Regent Miklós Horthy, officially accepted the Trianon borders to avoid Allied pressure. But locally, many former soldiers and nationalist groups rejected the decision. Several paramilitary formations began preparing to resist the transfer, acting formally without government authorization, but drawing support from segments of the local population. When Austrian forces attempted to enter the region in late August 1921, resistance groups moved first. Paramilitary units made up of former soldiers, volunteers, and local supporters blocked roads, cut telegraph lines, and forced Austrian gendarmes to retreat from several towns. Clashes broke out in several locations across Western Hungary, especially where Austrian units tried to establish control. Fighting occurred around Agfalva, Fertőrakos, and the outskirts of Sopron, as well as farther south near Pinkafu and Mattersdorf. These were mostly small engagements, ambushes, and short exchanges of fire, but they were enough to halt the Austrian advance. The irregular forces were led mainly by well-known Hungarian paramilitary commanders, such as Pál Prónai and István Helyas. Their units operated semi-independently, but coordinated enough to control most of the contested region. Austrian forces, on the other side, were commanded locally by elements of the Austrian gendarmerie and later by arriving Volkswehr units attempting to take over administration. During this period, some of the irregular units briefly organized their control. On October 4, 1921, Prónai's group proclaimed the Banate of Litha, a short-lived, self-declared entity meant to represent the resistance. It didn't receive recognition and lasted only a few weeks. As clashes continued, the Entente pushed both sides toward a negotiated solution. The irregular fighters agreed to disarm and withdraw in exchange for an internationally supervised referendum to decide the status of Sopron and the surrounding villages. The vote was held on the 14th of December, 1921. The result was clear. Sopron and 8 nearby settlements chose to remain with Hungary, earning the city the title, the Most Loyal. Meanwhile, the rest of Western Hungary was still assigned to Austria, forming the new province of Burgenland. With the referendum completed, Austrian authorities finally took control of the remaining territory. Even after the referendum, a few irregular groups attempted another small action between the 15th and the 27th of July, 1922, hoping to challenge Austrian control. The attempt was limited, quickly contained, and never grew into a real uprising. Both Austria and Hungary wanted to avoid another confrontation, and the remaining fighters were soon disarmed or dispersed. A few minor border adjustments were finalized in 1923, mainly small corrections around villages close to the new frontier. These changes did not alter the overall settlement. Hungary kept Sopron, while Austria secured the rest of Burgenland. With these final steps, the West Hungarian Uprising ended, and the new border became permanent. The West Hungarian Uprising was one of the small but important border conflicts that followed the end of World War I. Local fighters slowed Austria's takeover, created the short-lived Banate of Litha, and forced a referendum that kept Sopron in Hungary. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more history that often gets overlooked, hit subscribe and join for the next one.